Now we go over the so-called modern reviews or patch-based source code review. So, what is a code review? Well, basically you read the source code and provide feedback. And you can do this without any aid. You just read it and provide feedback. You can use a checklist. Certain items that should always be checked. You can use a certain viewpoint. You can consider security, maintainability, and so on. Or you can use a coding convention or other policy document that the software development organization is decided to enforce in the source code. So for example, in the picture, it is me with the very long method I found from the source code with some 500 lines. So if I would be to review this source code, I would first say, well, this method is very long, difficult to understand, but then I would also make other comments on it that I would find problematic inside it. So there would be things like X, Y, and Z. Now, these code reviews are done on the patches, but what are the patches exactly? Well, modern software systems are developed under version control. Version control has been utilized probably since the 1960s or 1970s. It is also known as revision control, source control, or source code management. Currently, the most popular tool for version control is Git. Before Git, the most popular one was Subversion, and before that it was CVS. So there is a long history of version control and version control tools. They all basically do the same thing. So software is developed by adding patches to the trunk, which is the main branch. If we look at the figure, we can see that the trunk or the main branch is the one on the green. So there is a version of the source code here on the trunk, and then here on the branch, the developer branches out, makes some changes, makes more changes, and then merges this back to the trunk. And the difference between the version 3 and version 4 would be the patch, and the patch would be the one that is reviewed. And typically in process where Git is utilized, these merges will be referred to as pull requests. The difference between a merge and a pull request is that when one merges, the developer that is developing the branch also does the merge. But with pull request, someone else pulls the changes made in this version 3 to this version 4. And then there is a possibility to do a code review between version 3 and version 4 on the batches. And it is also possible to have branches that are discontinued. Maybe it led to nowhere or ended up in disasters, or maybe the branch from 6 and 9 and 12 was some company specific branch, and then the company decided they were no longer going to maintain it, and they jump back to here with discarding all the changes made in this branch that was not the main branch, so it was not in the trunk. And if you have just been programming by yourself on your own computer, the benefits of this might not be very obvious. One of the benefits is that this enables teamwork. So you can have different people develop the source code, and then you merge their changes back to the trunk, and you review the source code before you do that. You can also compare between different versions. You can go back in time. So if you have in the latest version you have a defect you haven't had before, and you know that the latest version only had very few changes. So then you can review those changes to figure out where the defect is. This can be very handy. If the source code of a program has, for example, 1 million lines, but then you have made a minor update to the software where you have changed only 100 lines. But there is a defect in this new version where the 100 lines have changed. So now you can be pretty confident that the defect is in these 100 lines that you have changed. And with version control, it is easy to pull out and see what are the changed lines. So here is a software project that is under version control in Git, hosted by GitHub. It consists of several files, and there are 6 different contributors that have committed source code to this project. From here we can see that 76 commits have been made to this project. If we go inside of these 76 commits, we can see all of them by clicking here. And here is the place where we can see the merges with the pull request. For example, here identifier snowstorm 018 has made a fix, and then as I am the owner of this repository, I have merged the pull request from the snowstorm back to the master. So I have reviewed the source code and then I have merged it back to the main trunk. So this person has contributed to the repository. And in this case I have performed the code review on the changes only. And if we look at the changes by clicking there, we can see, okay, there is the commit message prevents Scopus Miner from crashing on atomic entry author. So there was a problem that this program crashed on a particular type of data entry. This patch shows that one file was changed, and then it highlights the differences that we can see on the screen. So it tells that the red lines are the ones that are removed and green lines are the ones that are added. And here we can see that it highlights the difference between these 2 lines. And the difference in this case is that what has been added is that it checks is recursive author. So this author is a piece of data and checks if it's recursive. And only if this is true, then the second part is executed here. So what was the problem here? That certain data entries were not recursive, and then it did something here which caused it to crash. And this check is now needed so that the program doesn't crash on it. And the review would only be performed on these 4 lines, because this is very small patch. It only changes, removes 2 lines and adds 2 lines. Well, basically it modifies 2 lines here. But Git shows it that, it removes these 2 and adds 2, which are, slightly different than the old one. And basically these patches that are reviewed can be of any size. Here is another patch that we can take a look at. So we can see that green lines are added, red lines are removed. So some lines added here, and we can see that here the number of lines added is much larger, and this change is much bigger, and so the code review would also take more time.